Oh, Kelly, thank you so much. Kelly, go for it.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit, amen.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day, and we just thank you for the opportunity to be here and learn different ways that we can better serve you and serve our students and our community and our staff. Pray that you would help us to have an open mind, help us to give each other insightful wisdom and ideas. Just be with us during this session and bless us in all that we do. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. That was so beautiful. And Kelly, the next time anybody throws open the opportunity for someone to do that, you should always say yes. That was so nicely done and really fit the spirit of our being together. Thank you so much. I'm going to keep you in a reflective mood for just a couple of minutes here. And I just, in thinking back, want everybody to realize that we are seeking to engage your kids in a style of learning that engages them and involves more discovery. And so I want you to think about your own discoveries in this process so far. And I'd like you to think for a moment about 4 weeks into this, a month into this process, what do you know that you didn't know before? That is important to you. And it might be something that you have learned for the very first time, or it may be something that you realize in a different and deeper way. But if you were thinking about how you're putting the pieces of this process together and what you have discovered that is significant to you, that you want to take forward and keep remembering for your professional practice, what might that be? And I'm going to have you take about a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and on your agenda for today, just jot a note to self about what that significant learning is for you so far. I don't want to rush anyone, so about another 10 or 15 seconds, but it looks like many of you were wrapping up that process. Okay, now I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to call your name and you can certainly choose to pass. But if you are willing to just read what you recorded, we're going to go from person to person to person. We're not going to elaborate on them at this moment. But I just would love for you to hear each other's discoveries. I think that's important if you're willing to share. So I'm just going to go around from the way folks appear on our screen. And up in one corner, I have Beth. So Beth, would you start for us?
Sure. I wrote down that I'm still not effective with reflection. As I go through and watch the videos, I know that was a piece when I took this class the last time that I had every goal in working towards, and I do reflections sometimes, but I still need to be more open and aware of reflection as being such a vital part of this process. And I also have learned and realized that I have a wonderful team at my school, and I'm just absolutely super excited to cooperate with them and use their gifts and talents. And I'm just thrilled. So I mean, I knew that it's one of those things that I knew, but in engaging in this class with the two that I'm working with right now.
Great, good to hear. Rick.
So yeah, it's kind of, I'm not positive how to put this one into words, but it's the idea that the projects can be different from projects that we've done in the past. I don't know, when you see I don't know if you looked at the one I turned in. I mean, that, that's not like a service project, like going out and helping somebody. It's more like helping ourselves and growing as people. And that's kind of what I've taken a different approach and looked at it that way. And so I think that's probably one of the bigger things that I've gotten so far.
All right, wonderful. Yes, I think as long as what you plan is a response to an authentic need, it can be internal. It doesn't have to be external.
Yeah, and I think too, maybe just as simple of thinking of an assessment rubric for your own design is that kids are doing authentic work using their the academic skills that you're teaching them, and that they're using them to make a difference on something that's real, not just turning in a grade. And so, I know we've said this a million times, it does not have to solve world peace, but it has to be authentic, and kids need to feel engaged, or they will feel engaged in the activity because of that.
Mark, you're next.
I jotted down collaboration, working with others in our school to help people in need, and the way I'm going to do that hopefully is by student directed research, authentic research and learning instead of teacher directed.
All right, wonderful. Felicia.
Can you hear me okay? I know we had problems last time.
No,
A couple of things, after watching the videos and listening to everybody talk, it kind of got me excited about showing my kids that it may be something small, but we can make a difference. And in service learning. Another thing I know typically when we teach, it's usually the teacher that's doing most of the directing. And sometimes we forget about that, but I think I need to trust my 6-year-olds more, putting them in charge of the direction that they would like to learn. And another thing, as teachers, sometimes we're always afraid to squeeze in a project because, oh, we've got so much more to teach and we've got all these standards to meet. But I guess when I sat back and looked at our project, the standards fit in so nicely. And it's a lot more fun to do it this way than, what the kids are typically learning about in a book or whatever. Yeah.
great. And what you really said underneath the sort of the subtext for trusting the 6-year-olds is trusting yourself, trusting your instincts to do that, to let go a little bit.
I love too that you said that it's a lot more fun to do this, because I think before people learn about service learning and what it really is, they come into it often thinking, oh, this is going to be a lot more work. And honest to goodness, Ellen and I would not be doing this if after the fact teachers felt like it was drudgery. What we see is that it's as much fun for the teachers and rewarding as it is for the kids. And so it's just getting over that hump of beginning to see it. So I'm so glad you said it out loud, Felicia.
Yeah. Andrea Smith.
Hello.
Hi.
I had written down the value of working with other grade levels and kids. And that seems to be something reoccurring in a lot of the projects that we've watched, that, you know, whatever grade level you teach, you kind of partner up with either older or younger. So I have 6th grade. So like maybe partnering with a group that's a little bit younger, and it can give your students a new perspective on things too. So that was something I hadn't really thought about before. And then the other thing was just the way some projects could be more simple or more complex, because I had kind of always thought about they had to be like huge projects, you know, like year long, just so much going into it, which was really overwhelming. But then some of the examples from the videos we watched were a little bit smaller.
Good.
I forget her name, but the one, I think she's at UA, where she did the smaller project this past year because,
Katie.
you know, they just couldn't do the big ones with them being remote and back in person and all that stuff. So that was kind of a nice thing to realize as well.
Great, thanks.
And when we talk, I'm sorry, but when we talked about kind of using that rubric for assessment, she could still apply that to the buddy program with the books that they made, because she met her standards, but instead of the kids doing the books just to turn into her to grade, somebody else was using them. So it was a smaller project, but it still had all the elements of a much more complex project.
Yep, great. Andrea Forster.
The things I wrote down, 2 things: impact and importance. I guess I discovered that you can have a serious impact and a very impactful, not just on yourself doing this, but on the others that you are, I guess, with collaborating. And I'll just piggyback on what Beth said. It has been a wonderful experience in discovering teachers. I'm new at St. Vincent, so I don't know the teachers as well. So this has been a great way to get to know them, or some of them, and just the videos that I've seen, the impact and importance that this has to others has been extremely special.
Thank you.
So.
Great. Tom?
I simply wrote that this is actually it's far more manageable and doable than I initially thought, and it's so valuable. And I think getting back to the authenticity thing, the authenticity for the students is so worth it. And you know, so yeah, I'm excited to get started on something.
Good.
So.
Great. Margot.
Okay, I wrote down that making connections is really the key to a good project, and connections not only within the community, but those who are in need and also others within your school. So collaborations, connections is really the whole like focus of these projects. I also put that having the kids experience an emotional impact or an emotional connection is really what we want to aim for. The internal rewards of their project and what they do far outweighs any other type of reward grade wise. So that's kind of what I want to be going for. Another thing I put down was learning by doing is really what we want our students to achieve. You know, they learn in so many different ways, but this is a kind of project where we want them to actually be doing something and be involved, and that's how they're going to learn from this. Also, using emotional intelligence was another thing that that I think has been significant for me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Those are great. Diana?
I jotted down that it's a great way to motivate students to care about their learning. In a way, they don't even realize how much academic work they complete. I know at our school, a big topic that always comes up is that they just don't care. And it's already been said, but it's more than just completing the assignment and getting the grade. Like, they're going to do something else with the assignment, and just that intrinsic motivation.
Great. Thank you.
Diana, I that comment about kids don't care, you know, we've had a experience when we start this with Best Days activity, when you think about when kids did care, when kids were emotionally engaged, when they collaborated and so forth. And it's such a difference than starting with teachers about how do you want kids to be? And we think of the deficits to begin with versus the times when we saw kids do care.
Yeah.
And you see it when you're engaging them in these kinds of activities and experiences. And so being able to focus on the assets and do activities more intentionally that elicit those assets is just a really healthy place to be.
And at my school, which my project is going to be with my 8th grade buddies, some of the rough groups in the past that, you know, are not pleasant as a whole are fantastic when we split them up and put them with the buddies. They're just, you see a total different side of them.
Absolutely.
So as an educator, when we can analyze what was it about that activity that made them come alive, and it's that maybe somebody looked up to them, they respected them. When you can put them in those conditions, they're not the rough group anymore. And we can intentionally put them in those conditions in lots of different ways.
Absolutely. Christine.
I had written down that the project has to be meaningful yet manageable. So again, like some of the others said, that it doesn't have to be a huge project, just as long as we can fit many of the standards in, and we're kind of finding that we can do that in the project that we're working on. And I also said what I believe it was Kathy said, you don't have to save the world, you know, it can be our own little, like Rick is doing, just ourselves, or as long as there's a need, that it doesn't have to be so huge.
That's right. Now, with that disclaimer, though, if anybody wants to save the world, please do. Go right ahead. Kelly.
I just made like a bullet point list with some words, but I put collaboration. I know my group both mentioned that. It's just been good to hear ideas and, you know, what we're going to do in our school. I put, it's not okay to have everything planned out, and trust the kids to kind of guide how the direction that it's going to go in. I wrote wide range of service, to personal, then to school, to community, to world. It can be as simple or as complex as you want. And then when we were planning our project, I just kept thinking of relevant, the 3 R's that you were talking about our first session. And relevant to me is what I feel like I lack in. So that's why when we were planning our project, that's what I kept thinking, is this relevant to them? Is this relevant? How are we going to make them want to be a part of this if it's relevant to them? So yeah, the 3 R's they keep standing out, because now I'm going to have that in my brain. Every time I want to do service learning, I'm going to be thinking of those and making sure I hit all of those.
Good. Great. Collectively, you all have just done a really wonderful job of teaching the class. I hope you notice how much further along the spectrum of learning about this you are now versus a couple of weeks ago. I mean, the growth in insight and learning is really noticeable to us, and we hope that you can feel it as well. I want to make a teaching point before we move on. Is very purposeful when you're dealing with discovery learning, project-based learning, service learning, any of those things. Periodically, you really want to check out where everybody is and figure out a non-threatening way to get at that, so that you can hear from everyone, but also they can hear from and reinforce one another. So this group reflection that we have just done at a strategic point in your learning is something that we highly recommend that you think about doing with your kids when you're in the midst of the project journey. Because without really interacting about where people are, you could easily make some assumptions that are inaccurate. If we had a really an especially talkative group that always responded easily in class, we might assume everybody's really getting it. And yet, if we don't ask the right questions, maybe we're not certain of that. At the same time, a very quiet group might mistakenly telegraph to us that they're not on track when in fact they are. So sometimes you really have to grab that reflection piece very intentionally and figure out a way to assess how folks are coming along. Anybody have any questions or comment about that? Does that make sense to you?
I have a comment. So Ellen started with individual reflection, that you sat quietly and thought about your own thoughts. And then it became group reflection. And almost everybody, I think collaboration came out loud and clear among most of you. But each of you had some individual, very valid points. And so when you then share in a group, you're not just you're not ending up at just the place you started. You start to consider each and every person's contribution to that. And so I think it's not unusual for teachers to have kids do a daily journal of reflection, which is great. But if you never do that group reflection, then you lose a lot of the learning that can be reinforced. So we would encourage you anytime that you can, and this could be over fractions, you know, it doesn't have to be over a service project, but having kids learn from one another. And then one last point about collaboration. We've gone over everything about how to design service learning projects, but one of the most important things we hope you take away from this class is that the work is better when you collaborate. You all add something to the puzzle. And whatever we can do, if you can go back to your schools, talk with your administrators, if you're an administrator, think about how can we make time for teachers to really work on the work together, because it will be better than it is when we go into our own classroom, close the door, and then live or die on whatever it is we bring individually.
All right, that was a great segment and an excellent discussion. Thank you all for your contributions to that. You may remember last week when we started class, I had a couple of comments that I wanted to make about exit tickets and reflecting deeply through those. And I want to commend everybody for the work that you did on the exit tickets, from Sarah Loken's session especially. I think that was really important. I want to go back 1 second. Melissa's operating from her phone because out of necessity, and I forgot to ask Melissa, did you want to weigh in on a discovery so far for you in the course? Because I wasn't seeing your smiling face, I don't want to be neglectful there. Do you want to weigh in?
She might have stepped away.
Okay, all right, we'll be okay with that. Colleen,
If
well,
Melissa was here, here's what she would have said.
Colleen, welcome. We were, everybody was sharing a significant thing that they have discovered or learned or had reinforced so far in the course. And they had a few minutes to jot that down so that they could think about it. And then those were shared with the group. You can either pass since you just walked in, or if you'd like to contribute, I don't want to skip over you.
Okay, so a significant thing that we have learned in this course so far. So you're
Or had reinforced, just one insight about this whole process that you think is important going forward.
To me, I guess one of the there's a lot of things I'm learning, but one of the big things I keep coming back to again and again is just is the the depth that you can get into with any of these projects with the kids, when you allow the children to drive these projects, the depth that you can go down into to truly get to that why is this happening? Because and I've heard Kitty Quinn mention multiple times over the years, when we're doing service projects or just the little one-offs here and there, that kind of thing. She goes, but it's the why. You kept saying the why. It's the why. I'm like, what all does that mean? But it's really kind of putting that into it's visualizing it for me, seeing it happen in these conversations that were happening, seeing it happen in the descriptions that you're given and the questions that you're leading us through. When people say something, you give those leading questions like, you're doing it. You're guiding, you're actually doing that for us. And for me, I keep thinking of those things as I hear you talk and interact with other people. So that's my reoccurring thought I keep having. So
Good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Just so in case nobody else saw this, Melissa is, let's see, I'm trying to
She's
think.
a
She's at freshman orientation at OU. So she is on the phone, but she can't speak on it. So she's listening, she's chatting and watching. And she said her insight is students' voice and choice is so important to make this relevant, which is Colleen certainly shared that as well. So thanks, Melissa.
Speaking of student voice and choice, that's a good opportunity for me to make a comment. In your exit tickets lately, a number of you have been saying that you're coming along on your project template, but that you don't want to presume too much because you want to allow the kids to have voice when school begins. And that is an absolutely valid point. We do want to encourage you, though, to work your way all the way through the template for two reasons. It doesn't mean you're going to close out student input at all, but work your way all the way through so that you feel comfortable with that process. And if you hit a point where you don't know what is being asked for, you can clarify with us. So yeah, part of that will be theoretical and in your imagination, of course, you're trying to project some things that might be appealing to the kids and do your best to complete the template. But do that so that we're confident that you're comfortable with the model. And also that's one of the things that according to the credit agreement with ODU that we have to see a completed template before Kathy can sign off on credit. So we totally understand it may play out differently once you have live human beings in front of you working on the actual plan, but move forward as best you can. Is that okay with everybody? Cool. All right. Before we start presentations for today, we're going to show you a quick video. This is going to be very reinforcing for you that all of this is worthwhile. One of the things over the years that people in project-based learning and service learning have had to react to is the predictable question from other people in education and also from parents and so forth. Yeah, all of this sounds great, but what if the kids don't learn what they're supposed to learn? Okay, and so very recently, the results of a couple of major research studies were released, one at the elementary level, one at the high school AP level. This is a film that comes from more from the elementary one. And this was a very comprehensive situation in which there were classrooms that were implementing project-based learning and they were doing the same types of projects as one another. And then there were classrooms they were compared to where no PBL or service learning was allowed for the period of time that was being measured. So it really was pure experimental control. And I think you will find the results really interesting. Now, PBL people did this more than specifically service learning, but most of the experiences they engaged kids in were actually service learning.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some fossils to actually look at, real fossils, and you can use the evidence to support what you're going to tell me about the fossils. All right? Some of the things.
Our goal was to design, develop, and test materials. The SEEK does project-based learning, really promote student learning.
All right.
Kids, unfortunately, are introduced to science like it's a body of knowledge.
Use your evidence to support your idea.
But science is so much more than that. Science is all about trying to figure out how things work. In many respects, project-based learning mirrors what scientists do, right? Trying to answer a really important question or to figure out what's going on with some phenomenon.
When I let go, I started to go slower and slower, so then it stopped.
Multiple literacies and project-based learning is very different from traditional science classrooms. I was a science teacher for about 30 years in Detroit Public Schools. We did cookbook experiments that usually were just validating whatever we talked about in class. When you go into a multiple literacies and project-based learning science class, you see something very different. You see kids that are engaged in asking questions and trying to solve problems. We developed 4 units for the 3rd grade that cover a full year of curriculum that are integrated with mathematics and English language arts. They are really investigating things. They are really making observations, asking questions. They're developing models. They're arguing with each other about the science.
We integrated literacy where it was really important to support children in the learning of science.
So we saw just in the classroom, kids getting excited about reading because they were excited about the topic, because it was something that was related to what they were trying to figure out. The standards in math that we chose to integrate were the ones that were so much a part of what we do in science. They're actually measuring for a purpose in order to gather data. So that they could really analyze that data in order to figure something out.
Can you see that word?
You can't see like a paragraph fast.
My role in this was to help with the design of the research. Part of the group would get the project-based learning, and the other group would study science just as they traditionally do. We had to make sure that our sample was balanced with respect to their achievement, their population characteristics, and school enrollment size. We looked at 46 schools, 23 in the treatment and 23 in the control group. At the end of the year, we gave all the students an objective science test that was developed by the Michigan Department of Education. We found that, in fact, there was a significant treatment effect for the students that were in the treatment group. This was true regardless of what your gender was. It was true regardless of what your race and ethnicity was. And it was true whether you were a struggling reader, an average reader, or a very good reader.
We actually moved them up in their proficiencies in learning science. And so that is really strong evidence for using project-based learning in schools, because it is different. But do the kids get excited about learning science? Do they put effort into learning science? And so we also measured kids' social emotional learning.
So for teachers who are just starting out, just changing your instruction to say, we're trying to answer this question today, so that it gives purpose to what the kids are learning. That power of, I can figure things out for myself, is such an important skill for kids to develop that they will be using for the rest of their lives.
Did it make a difference when I changed the structure?
To clarify, the reason that they used a set curriculum for this was to actually control the research conditions. That people behind this are not saying to you or any other teachers, you should use this specific curriculum, or that you should use a scripted approach to PBL or service learning. But they felt that, their mission here was to determine once and for all, does this approach make a positive difference? Does it at least stay even with a traditional approach and be more joyful, or are there additional benefits? And you could see the results. Any reactions to that?
I find myself as I'm watching that all, in some of the past classes we've had, picking out those key words or those key moments or those different things that cause that engagement. I'm like, my mind was geared towards those things. So it was fun watching that. It's fun seeing that difference, I guess, in my own thinking. So.
Yes, thanks. And we can make the other video available for those of you that are interested in the high school one, and it is dazzling. The AP courses were AP Government and AP Environmental Science, and I mean the kids in the PBL groups just outdistanced their peers significantly. It's very impressive.
Colleen, piggybacking on what you said, all I could think of when I was watching this again, and every time I see it, I'm just, thrilled that somebody took the time to do a true research study on this. And all I could think about was the rubric, the Wordle that we created based on what you said. That was all there.
Mm-hmm.
We know as
there you go. Very good.
We know as teachers what makes a difference. And so we just need, I think, we need time to think about what it looks like in our own classroom and have lots of models that we can build on.
Yeah. Yes, Tom.
I thought it was interesting that they noted that the difference was across all reading levels, reading abilities. So often we get these reluctant readers that they love the hands-on stuff, but they don't want to bother to do the reading. And so I think it's significant that they discovered that performance was improved across all levels, which is it sort of validates the project-based learning model. It really does. So I thought that was interesting.
Both the reading level and the gender, there was no difference across gender. And I can remember 100 years ago, one of my areas I
can
almost. But there was a period of time in my career that the superintendent at Worthington put me in charge of science, which is a whole different story for another day. But I remember a video that I came across that was not dissimilar to this, but the assumptions were interesting. So they took high school physics students, and they were concerned that the level of involvement of girls in physics was going down year after year after year. And so they wanted to do something to encourage girls taking physics at the high school level. And so they created what they didn't call was project-based learning. I don't know what they called it at the time, but it was project-based learning. So they put all the girls in the project-based learning class, and they kept all the boys in the just drill, teacher providing all the content and taking tests and so forth. And so the girls' scores and engagement and motivation went way up. And within 2 years, they'd put all the boys in that class as well. They realized that it wasn't the difference in gender as much as it was just not a great way to teach kids. So I wish I still had access to that video now. I'd love to see it again.
Anybody else? All right. Oh yes, Christine, go ahead.
Where can I get some of those projects that they were doing?
I don't know the answer to that, but
we'll do some research on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, we are moving into the very exciting time for you all to share some of your ideas. Let me reiterate before we start that we are just looking for a quick couple of minutes from each of you, not a major presentation.
We're just going to do about half of them.
Yeah, we're going to do about half of the folks today and the rest next week. If there's anybody that wants to jump in right away and get us started, that's terrific. Otherwise, you know, we can call names if you want us to, but otherwise, Kelly's ready to go. See, this is and Beth and Kelly. Does this have anything to do with why you volunteered to pray?
If you can share your screen with your slide, that's great. If you have problems doing that, I can get to it too.
And you can certainly work from your slides, but understand the most important message we're hoping for is why are you excited? You know, what are you looking for in terms of positive outcomes here?
All right, so we're doing this as a team approach, as you know, so we split up the slides. I'm starting with the what we're doing. So it's title right now, as we think, is going to be Rooted to Raise. We like alliteration and all that. Our school, it's just like who we are. Our school theme this year is going to be Rooted in Christ. We've kind of been on a cycle of we bloom where you were planted, sow the seeds of discipleship, and this year's Rooted in Christ. So we're keeping with that environment theme. And the raise part is raising awareness and also raising, literally, we're going to raise funds to try to reduce the plastic consumption. And that's why we keep saying we're kind of leaving this open. This is going to be, we're starting with a real service learning project, but we hope that it broadens into a community service project by the end of the year. So we definitely will have our template planned out for the initial project, but we are hoping that this will springboard with the rest of the staff for the rest of the year.
Great.
Andrea, I think is next.
The why, the excitement, and you said 1 or 2. I think we have 4. So topic is relevant to the school community because of what we saw this last year. Lots of water bottles, increase in waste, which is in the there, increased waste that we observed last school year. Lots and lots of water bottles. No, because the water fountains we weren't able to use those. Second bullet, topic connects to our school accreditation, academic problem solving, and Catholicity service. And I cannot see that. Opportunity. There we go. Okay. And third, the project helps us to become certified with Laudato or Laudato Si. The Pope's, I think I looked this up the other day.
Encyclical.
Thank you, Beth. Yes. And I think that means praise to be, Laudato Si or Laudato Si. And the fourth, the project has many opportunities to expand in the future, like Beth talked about, to the community. So we can start with the school, with St. Vincent as kind of small, and then get larger and larger as we go forth, and hopefully into the community by the end of it. So that is the why we're excited about this. And I think Kelly's next.
Okay. So like she said, one of our initiatives is problem solving. And so we were hoping to start out with doing a STEM project with having the students complete something without using plastic so they can raise awareness to how much we actually use plastic products. And then we had someone, we would like for someone from the DKMM program to come and talk. They're like our recycling company that we have locally. So that way they can speak on the importance of recycling. And for our action idea, this is where we came up with this part, but we're hoping eventually it will start getting the kids with their ideas more involved. But raising money for our dress down days towards a water bottle filling station. And then when they bring in money for their dress down day, they have to bring in $1. So it will go to that. And they'll also bring in a cap to recycle for an art project that we will donate to a community organization. And we had a lot of curriculum connections. We had a lot of earth science connections. and obviously art with those caps. And then we even were able to kind of stretch it into math with some of those younger grades of sorting and organizing and charting and graphing those colored caps, and being able to do that. So we were really able to kind of hit a lot of standards with it, but we didn't even list all of them on here because there's so many.
We're glad. Terrific. It strikes me, in the past, we heard about a similar project when we taught a different group of folks, and they had come up with an entry event. There was a YouTube video that very vividly showed danger to sea animals because of the plastic situation.
I've got that. I used that.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I did was try to find something pertaining to kind of each grade level, because it's going to be family activities, K-8.
Wonderful.
So I found that one because it is such a great service example. The Hawaii one you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then I have a more of a cartoony one for the younger grades, and an even more intense science one for the older grades. So we'll have it.
That's great. That's great. You are well on your way.
Yeah, it's terrific.
It's obvious, I think, why y'all are excited. Did we miss any of your content, or have you shared what you want to share?
Good.
Okay. So our process when we do the sharing of projects is we encourage you. I think, did you send them a charting piece, a charting sheet?
I did.
Okay.
Well, yeah, late.
I don't know if you received it in time, but Kathy sent you a form where you just jot down the project so that you don't need to keep track of details, but just people and topics so that you can follow up with those folks if you choose to. Now, ultimately, you'll be able to see the whole project, but at least this will tell you who's doing what in the meantime. The other thing we like to do is, before we go to the next project, we might like to get at least one comment from the group to tell these folks what stood out for you in their project idea. What'd you like about what they just shared? Can we get a volunteer? Yes, Margot.
Well, I just think this is fantastic that you're doing this, because I personally believe one of our biggest challenges right now is getting our schools to use less water bottles, because it's so wasteful, and using too many plastics is really bad for the environment. So I applaud your efforts. I think this is wonderful. I'd like to do something in my school too.
Cool. All right. Anybody else?
It was great to hear each one of them in their presentations. You could hear the excitement in their voice. You could hear the animation and what they're, so you can tell that's an internalized passion of theirs, and that transfers so well to the students and those around us.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
And the Yeti company will be very happy you're doing this. But the kids better bring in $5 instead of $1.
Okay, who would like to go next? Who else is ready to share their slides? Go ahead, Diana.
While she's getting this ready, I will make the observation that when we first started doing this, you know, it was like right at the beginning of the pandemic, and we started having Zoom sessions. Teachers didn't know how to share their slides with each other, and you guys have got it down perfectly.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't plan on doing this alone, but I'm the only person from my school in the class, so I just put my name. I'm hoping to collaborate with the 8th grade teacher or one of the middle school teachers, whoever does buddies with me, and then art and possibly even music with some stuff I saw earlier. And I chose the title Spread Your Wings. We do caterpillars that turn into butterflies in 1st grade, and I can kind of link it to a science standard a little bit with, I don't know, just kind of something catchy. And my focus is child mental health. I am mostly looking at anxiety and depression because I feel that they are on the rise, even before COVID, but now with COVID, a lot of children just are continuing to have issues. So from what I've seen so far, mental health issues are continually on a rise. Research has found that approximately 50% of mental health issues began before the age of 14. And that really stood out to me. I have mental health issues in my family, and with having 3 children myself, I don't know how much heredity that's going to be passed on. So there's still little, but this kind of hits close to home too.
Sure.
Children struggle with these issues on a daily basis at school and at home. And it's causing problems with their schooling and physical well-being because, you know, it just affects them all. So by raising awareness of these issues, children and adults will understand behaviors and hopefully gain some coping strategies. Because a lot of times there's a reason why a child is acting the way they are acting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still toying with my entry event. I have, thanks to my small group last week, I am in contact with somebody from Nationwide Children's.
Good.
Hopefully I can get a guest speaker to come in. The movie Inside Out, possibly for the younger grades. I'm not sure about middle school. It might be too immature for them, but that really looks into all the different emotions you have. And then I've already started to compile a huge list of books that can be used.
When you mentioned using Inside Out, one way to deal with the concern that you shared about the age appropriateness might be for one of the middle school teachers to collaborate, and the middle school kids could watch it first and be the ones that lead the discussion for the younger kids. Are we sharing one brain again? Yeah. I think even though it's animated, and I understand what you're saying about maybe not being at a middle school level, I'm guessing it would still really resonate with middle school kids, especially if they're going to play a leadership role.
Yeah, and a lot of them might still enjoy it. I mean,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I've never in my life not enjoyed a Disney movie. So
yeah,
but that's me.
No, you're in the large group there.
And the Disney Plus, sorry, off topic, Raya and the Last Dragon and Luca have come out in the last few weeks. We've watched them every day in my house. So my action ideas, I'm definitely going to buddy with the 8th grade students to do some research, because they will to guide my little ones, because I'm hoping to do this fairly soon in the school year. And our reading skills are going to be limited with some of my 1st graders. So doing a lot of this during buddy time. Write a research paper, because that connects with, I haven't looked in the 8th grade standards, but I guarantee you they have to research, and I research in 1st grade. Create art pieces. I'll collaborate with my art teacher. I have a few ideas already of some things that can be done. Create posters, and then possibly a slideshow to share with other grade levels if it's only 1st and 8th who do this project. Curriculum connections, I mean, there are so many. So I'll hit reading, writing, speaking, health, art, music, and technology.
Absolutely. I think you've selected I don't know, we're not sure where the interference came from. Sorry. You selected a great topic, and you've got some wonderful ideas to begin with. And I know that you'll find meaningful ways for your kids to really be the ones that do the awareness raising after they learn things that are important to them. And I think if nothing else happens other than people become more insightful that it's okay to hurt, and that people do, and that there are places to go when you hurt, so that that can get better. I mean, that's
when it's especially with the little ones, all the emotions you have.
Yeah.
They're often, told stop doing this and stop doing that, but they need to understand the emotions are acceptable. But then we have to learn what to do with our body, appropriately with our emotions, versus just having a fit or being mean to someone. So it's probably going to do more than what I even intend to.
Yes.
Because my initial thought was just the anxiety. Like, I've seen it
with my little ones. And I have close friends who have older children who have really struggled at school because of just having that anxiety. My husband has social anxiety. I mean, it's everywhere. So
yeah. You know, I love that you're going to pull in the art piece, and because that's an authentic product that the kids can create that can be helpful to others. But when you think about a speaker from Nationwide, certainly having somebody who's heading up or involved with the children's mental health program there is important. But my guess is that they've worked with a designer, graphic designer, or somebody who has created their materials to be graphically pleasing.
my husband is a graphic designer.
But I thought,
so I have that too. And he just started his own company. So we will have some
terrific.
resources there too.
That's terrific, because I think it's one thing for the researchers and the physicians to come up with strategies at Nationwide. That's what they're going to do. They're going to come up with treatment. But the graphic designer is the person who's communicating what they're doing for everybody. And I bet your kids' work might be used at Nationwide if you had some sort of a partnership. You could provide that.
Well, and that here is where I kind of just put create art pieces, create posters, because this is all we got to see what happens.
Sure.
Sorry, I had stopped sharing before. I didn't, and I put it back up here. So these are just like my kind of ideas, but I'm not going to like 100% say that has to be done. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah,
as the project is going.
Well, good job. Who
Thank you.
has some feedback for Diana?
I know just from one of my son's high school friends became the Nationwide, not poster child, but whole side of a building child. So I know Nationwide is an absolute wonderful resource for you. And I know they have some kind of those like designs and pieces that they've really started. So you've hit the right thing there with Nationwide with that was a mental and especially social anxieties and things. And also one thing, the last time we did kind of like a PSA kind of thing, we did it through the announcements every day. So it was great for the speaking standards as well. The kids had to actually write something. I think it was like 6th graders. So maybe check with that grade level. If you have announcements every day at school. So you could like.
We do morning and afternoon. So thank you.
Like those emotion today kind of things and have, that you could expand on it.
When I was even thinking with the spread your wings, that there might be like a giant butterfly somewhere, and on the wings we'll list things and
all those emotions. Yeah, that's awesome, Diana.
Good. Diana, did
Thank
I
you.
send you the Change Your Brain video?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's
I loved it because who doesn't love Popsico? So that was really cute the way that they changed that.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of an art project you could possibly do too. We had an art teacher a couple years ago that had at the beginning opening of the year school, one of her projects was every single child in the entire school did like a little wing or a little piece, and she created it into this beautiful butterfly that had every child's input as to what their what school meant to them or something. But if you can tie that into this child into your project, you can have a visual impact for all the things that the kids can do. Or how they're
I
showing
like that
those.
idea.
Very good, very good. Who would like to go next? Margot, did you wave at me or no?
I was just going to add one thing to her project. The On Our Sleeves thing that Nationwide does, that made me think of that. Is that kind of, have you been?
Yeah, that's where I started. That's actually where I got the butterfly idea, because either Kathy or Ellen, I don't remember who, I think was that during our individual Zoom? I don't know, somewhere you told me about it, and I have to spend more time on it. There's so much on that On Our Sleeves.
Yeah, there is. Mark, did I see you volunteer, sir?
Sadly, yes.
You'll be the only one who's sad, not the rest of us.
All right. Let's see if I can find it here.
Yeah.
Do you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right. What am I doing wrong here?
Did you share your screen?
Yeah, I thought I did. Okay, but I don't see my page on here. Hang here in a second.
if you have problems, I can do it. I think, she says confidently. Oop,
All right, now we there?
There we go.
All right, well, I'm gonna be working with probably where I teach, my homeroom is 7th grade, and I teach math and science, so I'm gonna tie in both of those. And we have 2nd grade buddies that we go to mass with weekly, and we're gonna hopefully educate the 2nd graders about pediatric cancer and bring it down to her level, and then kind of go from there. And I'm still working on, some ideas. When I've been talking to people at Nationwide Children's last couple of days, and it's just when you go on their website, as I think Diane was just talking about, there's just so much information. I mean, my head wanted to explode. And I spent hours just looking at all this stuff. But anyways, what we want to do is learn about childhood cancer and teach them how it happens and how the cancer develops in innocent young children and adults. And then the whys and hows about childhood cancer, because a lot of it doesn't make sense. You see commercials. In particular, I looked at one of the patient stories. A young girl named Lauren. I've seen her on TV for Nationwide Children's Hospital, and it just, to me, just like cancer in anybody, it is misunderstood. There's a lot of misperceptions, and I'm hoping that this will clear it up a little bit more for my 7th graders, and then then they can teach the 2nd graders about the different things. And then that's the first part there that I just wrote down, is just where the most common cancers are for young adults and children: organs, tissues, lymph nodes, brain tumors, which are pretty common, muscle, skin, and bone. Then I got just a couple of facts that I found there. Basically, 175,000 children aged 14 and under worldwide have cancer. And then basically some of the things that I've been thinking about is creating, because they have so many things on there to give or to make. And because of COVID, there's so many things that I was thinking about. My first thought was making pillowcases with special messages on them, of hope and don't give up and that kind of thing. But I have to talk to somebody down there, because I don't know if they will allow that in because of the art, whatever you're using on the pillowcases, as such as markers, or I don't know much about art, but I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but that's an option. And then other than that, making word search puzzles of positive, we could think of different topics. We can use the standards and make a word search puzzle out of, like, say, whatever topic we're doing in science. We could use math words. We could use any kind of words. Making Mad Libs, so the teens can mess around with them and have fun, and hopefully get their minds off of the challenges that are ahead. And then those are some of the ways that the students are going to learn: reading, writing, researching, statistical info. I forgot to put art, because if we do the pillowcase things, then there'll be obviously some art involved too. This last part I kind of struggled. The entry event, I still haven't got a hold of. I want somebody to come into the class to teach the 7th graders basically the basics about pediatric cancer, and I haven't been able to locate anybody yet. But I'm working on that, and if that could happen, that would go in here. If not, then there's a million videos of the different kids' stories of what they were like, what happened, and what it's like now for them with cancer.
Well, and even if you have a guest speaker, we would recommend that the emphasis for the speaker be on telling important stories, not so much conveying a lot of factual information. Because your kids, once they're hooked, they're interested based on the stories. They'll research with great interest and discover the information piece. It's hooking the interest that is key in that entry event.
Right. And I think if we get somebody, just to have somebody that comes in that looks like a doctor
Yeah.
or acts like a doctor, the kids will instantly be hooked, because it's something, out of the ordinary than just staring at my ugly face. And then, I am going to break the kids into small groups, the 7th graders, and they are going to pick a type of cancer, and they're going to research it. And then they're going to make a social media presentation of it. And then eventually they're going to teach it to the class or to 2nd graders.
Great.
And, the last part, curriculum connections, we kind of already talked about that, except for character building emotions such as empathy and putting yourself in someone else's shoes, which is something that I've always talked about in Catholic school, because you don't know what it's like until you put yourself in their situation. That's about it for as far as I got.
Once again, my friend, you have done a better job than you tend to give yourself credit for. So just know that you're on a good track, and continue to ask questions and ask for help if you need it. But you're doing a good job with this.
Yeah.
I was going to say one thing. You may want to talk to somebody also at Ronald McDonald House, because some things that you can't get into the hospital itself, like the pillowcases might be an example, or places, or baked goods or whatever. There are things that you can do that Ronald McDonald House will take and use with the families. So that may open up some other possibilities for you.
Okay.
And Mark, I'm going to send you to, when we were still doing face-to-face training, when we had enough time, we called it the service learning speed dating. We would, in the course of one of the afternoons of training, we would take them through each element of a project. They would be the students, and we use pediatric cancer. So I'll send that to you. But one of the things that I wanted to share, we were in New Mexico. And so one of the things that we were trying to pull in math and different things, but we had them research the top 10 or 15 pediatric cancer hospitals in the country, and then plot how far they were from Sunland, New Mexico. If they lived there, how far it was to a top hospital. But if they lived in Columbus, how far was it? And in Columbus, you could go 15 minutes down the road, or a couple of hours to, I think, 2 more.
Cincinnati and Cleveland.
Cincinnati and Cleveland.
And Indianapolis, actually.
Yeah. They were all over the place. But if you lived in Sunland, New Mexico, you were, I think, 10 to 12 hours away from a top hospital. And so it gets you into thinking about, what are the support services? What's the difference between a parent over lunchtime going to, or taking an hour or 2 for an appointment versus living in Sunland, and you have to take off work for maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year. And so then that gets into the Ronald McDonald houses. And again, Columbus, the Ronald McDonald House here, I believe, it was maybe the first, and it's the largest. So our resources here are amazing.
What do they do with the Ronald McDonald House? I'm not familiar with that.
If a child has I don't know if they call it life-threatening illness, but they're going to have extended stay at the hospital. Parents and siblings can, it's like a hotel.
Oh, okay.
And so they can stay there, and all the rooms have been, decorated, and there's resources. People do volunteer. They'll take, maybe make dinner one night. But when you think of the systems that need to be in place, it isn't just the doctor, it's everything else that helps to support families when they have kids with long-term illnesses, how important that is.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
Okay, if you will stop your screen sharing, we'll come back to the group here. Comment or two for Mark, please.
I love the pillowcase idea. I thought that was really creative. And as you were talking about it, I was thinking adding to the pillowcase, I don't know if it's possible or not, but maybe somehow using like a t-shirt from mom or dad that could be like put on a stuffed animal or something like that, so that they always have a piece of their parents with them to go with the pillowcase. I thought that pillowcase idea was phenomenal.
I love that too. And if they say that for health reasons, hygiene reasons, that it's not doable, ask them just for the heck of it whether those could be going home presents. Because it may be that you can prepare it, wrap it, and they would be willing to send it home with the kid.
And I just thought about the t-shirt because mine's from like coming on the other end, like when my husband's grandfather passed, grandma took a bunch of his ties and she turned them into something. Then she used some of his pieces of his shirts and made them into quilts for all of the grandkids. So this on the other aspect, just giving them something to have that smell and have that reminder of their parents.
And I'm hoping that when you check that there's some way to get it in there. We know we've worked with other teachers in other areas that did do blankets and did, there was a design, I'll have to think about who did this, but it's like a blanket can turn into a pillow. That it's sort of like a no-sew blanket, but it was, I think it ended up being both. And I know they took them to whatever, was that Northeastern Ohio that we did that, or was that in?
I don't
Well, it doesn't matter, but I'll try to do some research on that. But I think there's probably some way to get something in there, because they certainly take stuffed animals and blankets of their own.
Somebody else had their hand up, wanted to make a comment. Alicia?
I really like your idea. I think the kids would definitely be emotionally involved. Sad as it is, I would imagine a large majority of your kids had a family member with cancer, or classmates, or somebody they knew. So yeah, I like that idea. I think it'll really help kids out.
Yes, Kelly?
I know that you were saying that you were struggling with like the entry event to get them, connected and to really buy into it. And one thing I know that's really relevant right now is the like escape rooms and like problem solving. So maybe if they were trying to problem solve what a student would be going through that had cancer, so like temperature change, hair loss, learning from home, parents having to take off work, the struggles that maybe siblings or parents would have, trying to put them in those situations to problem solve, figure out what they would need to do. Maybe that would help them really put them in that headspace of what it would be like and feel those struggles, so that way they will be interested to learn more about it.
Good.
Mark, I'll also send you information. One of some teachers that were in one of our previous classes as a team at their school, was it Greensview? They worked, there was one of their students had a sibling who had cancer. And so their classes worked with her to write a book about the sibling, what the sibling's going through and what they can do to help, and then actually published it. And I'm sure they probably got resources and ideas that might be helpful. So I'll try to connect you with them as well.
Okay.
All right, those are
Thank you.
all wonderful presentations that we've had so far today. We'll have the rest of you plan on doing those next week, and we'll start with that so that we make sure we've got plenty of time to devote to feedback for everybody. Based on your feedback, it has been helpful each time you've been in breakout rooms and had a chance to chat with colleagues about the session and about what you're still working on and give each other ideas. So we want to provide that opportunity for you today. If you have requests to be with specific people, would you tell Kathy? Otherwise, we will randomize that.
Let's see.
I don't know if some of you still need to work with the group you're collaborating with, or if you're in pretty good shape and you'd rather be in a mixed group.
I don't know, Andrea and Kelly, I think I'd still like to be in our group. We have I know we're going to meet next week again, but we're on a roll. So if you don't mind.
Forced, that'd be Robinson, Forster, and who?
And Dustin, Kelly Dustin.
Okay.
Thanks.
There, yeah.
Can I, Chrissy Taylor? And I don't know, Rick or Colleen, if you wanted to, come with come with the IC group to hear what our ideas are.
I can join in with you because we talked about, we emailed back and forth. So yeah, I'm happy to join you. Rick's welcome too. So
Let's put Melissa in there too, just in case, so she can listen to us.
Okay, so I've got Christine, Melissa, Rick, Felicia. Is that
and
right?
Colleen.
Colleen. Christine,
Yeah,
Colleen.
Christine, Colleen, Melissa, Rick, and Felicia.
Okay.
And so I've got anybody else that definitely wants to be together, or I can put the rest of you in one group.
Can you put me with Andrea Smith?
Okay, who's talking?
Margot.
Okay, so Andrea and Margot.
Just the two of you as a group? Is that what you want?
You might want to join the rest of the IC group later. I don't know. Andrea, what do you want to do? Maybe, you know what? Why don't you put us with the IC group too? That would be good.
Okay, let me see how I do that. Which is the IC group? Is that Andrea and Beth?
Felicia, Christine.
No, yeah, they're a big group.
Oh, the big group. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move you to room 2. And then, okay, so Diana, Mark, and Tom, I'll put you in a group. That's okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Sounds good.
I'll go wherever.
Okay. About 25 minutes, gang, and then we'll come back and conclude as a large group. All good? All righty. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Hope that was helpful use of your time. So what'd you pick up in your group? How'd you spend your time and what came out of that? Get 1 or 2 examples?
I got just lots of good suggestions about different things to explore with my project, and some other ideas about just avenues we could have the kids take. So yeah, it was helpful.
Good. Yes, Christy?
We found out that our group, my Felicia's and Melissa's, is very similar to Margot and Andrea's. So we're trying to figure out, do we do two separate? I think we decided we're going to still do two separate ones, but then figure out how we can collaborate later on.
Good,
Great.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Any of you have any questions that you need to have answered as you're wrapping up your preparation to present next week? Those of you that haven't presented yet. Everybody's good to go? All right. The concluding video, I am sure you're going to find very interesting. You would have anyway, but because there are several of you that have such an interest in mental health, we wanted to share with you a video that high school kids at Pickerington did after deciding that this was one of their priority issues. They worked on it, did a lot of excellent research, and then developed a PSA. And so we want to share this with you. I think you'll be impressed with their work.
Yeah, and two things I just want to check before we're finished. Is everybody that is taking the class for ODU credit, are you all set? No problems? Okay.
I talked
I do.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I
go ahead,
talked to
Christine.
Quinn, and she said she was going to check because I paid for it and everything, but I didn't get any really response back. So I just wanted to make sure that that's all taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
I registered online and through ODU and put in the credit card and all that, and I haven't really heard anything back from them either. So.
Okay.
You didn't get an email, a non-respond email? Because I got, let me look real quick. I got an email after I paid.
I'll have to go look. I don't recall getting one.
Okay.
Yeah, no reply from Ohio Dominican University. I guess I could share my screen, but I got that. And it said, thank you for enrolling, location, money. And then it asked me to pay a check, but they took my credit card information. So Kitty said to not write a check until she figures it out. I haven't heard from her yet, but it went through my credit card already. It's on my statement. So you should have probably gotten, and I feel like I got this really quickly after I paid for it.
I will contact Kitty on everybody's behalf. Mark, did you have an issue too?
Yeah, in talking with in our small group there, I think I did the wrong thing. I did the CEUs instead of the college course, and I did the fee waiver at the beginning, and I never get it. But this time I got one, and it says it's good for 1 credit hour. So what do I do with that, and how do I deal with that? I asked Kitty, and it's been slow getting answers from her. I don't know why. Usually she's on top of everything.
Yeah, I know they had a 2-week principals leadership academy. I think that she was real involved in.
It's happening right now, that class is actually. So this whole week, all last week and all this week. So yeah.
So if anybody had a fee waiver, what do I do with it? Can anybody tell me?
Okay, let me ask this. One, you should be able to sign up still with the information that's in our Google Classroom.
Okay.
But I haven't looked at that closely in a long time. Was there a place to say that you had a fee waiver? Does anybody remember? Is there a person to contact at ODU if you have a question?
I just put in the chat, I just put the email contact.
Oh, good. Okay.
And then I have a phone number too. I can tell you what it is and put it in the chat. So it's 614-251-7641.
This is at ODU?
This is from ODU. Yeah, it says sincerely, Happiness Mapira. Doesn't seem like a real name. It says it's the director though of the adult and continuing education at ODU.
Happiness?
Happiness. I'll type it.
Okay, I will. That's also her lounge act name, I think.
Happiness Mapira.
Interesting.
I will. I'll check with Kitty And I'm confident that ODU will take your registration at any point in
Yeah.
the process.
Yes.
If
I'm
they're
gonna
like
do that
Ash
right now.
Hall, I've had them take it 2 years after the fact. So, Ash,
Okay.
so, but don't, if you continue to have problems, let me know, because we'll figure it out until it's right.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
I did get that confirmation email. So there was a confirmation email that they send out after they take your money.
I just want to verify with ODU credit because I've never done this before. So I've registered, I paid, I finished my template and I fill in the log that we have. So I printed it off and I've been writing on it, but my friends in my group brought up that I can just type in that and then turn that into you when it's done with the 25 hours.
Yeah.
And then is that all I do? And then you do the rest?
You tell me when your template's done and when your log is done. And I can see all that in the Google Classroom. And then I'll let Kitty know. Normally I am giving grade, like for Ashlyn, I put the grades in online, but I assume Kitty's going to do it. So I'll let her know when you're
And
done.
then how do we get the credit? Well, then she'll email us, or
I'll ask her about how you access. If it didn't say in the information how you access a transcript.
I don't remember seeing anything.
In times past, when I've gotten credit this way, yeah, you would just email when the course is done, the grade's in, you just do get a transcript, a copy of the transcript in it, and you just request that online or a paper version.
It's
I
like
have to request it.
You do. I had
Okay.
to.
Oh, you have to request the transcript and pay for it. So like any college transcript.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just, I'll reiterate, if there's any issue with you needing verification before, let's see, who am I writing a letter for?
You're writing that for me.
Diana. Okay, so Diana needed the information before she'll have access to a transcript. So I'm writing a letter that verifies it. Sometimes people need that before that they get the transcript. So don't hesitate to ask me for that as well.
And you have it ready for me for next week, correct? Because
do.
Our deadline is the last day to get reimbursed from the public schools. So
it's
thank you.
It's in my calendar, but tell me to do that.
Well,
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let me get to the video. Which one? Oh, this one.
Yeah.
It's this one.
Hi, we are seniors from Pickerington North, and we are enrolled in service learning academic tutoring. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Anna, and we took this class because we wanted to make an impact on the youth in our community.
We really want us to be change makers, and we have really enjoyed getting to know all of these kids over this past year, both virtually and in person.
We did the heartbreak map, and our classes were led to 3 topic areas. These topic areas were mental health, climate change, and racial justice.
Our project following our mental health unit was to create a public service announcement for our community.
We chose the song You Will Be Found from Dear Evan Hansen because Dear Evan Hansen is a musical all about mental health and the importance of knowing that you are loved and you are known by your community.
We hope you enjoy our PSA.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear?
Like you could fall, no one would hear. Well, let that lonely feeling wash away.
Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay.
'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand.
And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home.
Even when the dark comes
My favorite parts of this class were being able to work with young students and learning about racial injustice and new cultures. Well, my favorite things about this class is that I get to learn about real world issues and problems, and I like to work with the younger students.
To be in service learning is to be a small spark of change. Together we can create the fire that will leave a big impact. Service learning not only taught me how to make a change, but also how to want to make a change.
I joined this program with the notion that I would only be helping kids, but instead I am graduating with life lessons regarding the current world we live in. You showed us how a small lesson can be transformed into a movement.
You can see how those young people became so passionate and clearly began to make the journey from service to social justice through their experiences. So we're really proud of them and their teachers, and hope that you enjoyed that as well. You all have any parting comments as we conclude today? Anybody? Well, then get to the work of playing and enjoy the summer day. You've done a great job today. We're really pleased, and we look
Yes,
forward to
absolutely.
next week. Good job, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.